Deep in the heart of a village made of colorful, hand-molded clay, lived Professor Barnaby. He was a very wise man who had spent his whole life teaching others how to think big thoughts. His kitchen always smelled of toasted beans and warm sugar, and his clay stove hummed with the sound of a whistling kettle. Barnaby loved visitors, especially his former students who were now out in the big world. One sunny afternoon, there was a knock at the door. It was Sterling, one of Barnaby's most successful students. Sterling wore a sharp, molded clay suit and carried a shiny briefcase. He looked very important, but he also looked very tired. "Professor," Sterling sighed as he stepped inside, "life is so busy. I have the best job and the biggest house, but I feel like I'm always running a race." Soon, two other students arrived, Ponder and Micah. Ponder was constantly checking his tiny clay watch, worrying about his next meeting. Micah was looking at Sterling's expensive shoes and then back at her own plain boots, feeling a bit sad. They all sat around Barnaby's large, oval table, talking about who had the fanciest car and who had the most important title. Barnaby listened quietly as he prepared a large pot of his special coffee. "You all sound like you've been working very hard," he said with a twinkle in his eye. "Let's have some coffee before you go." He walked to the cupboard and brought out a tray filled with many different cups. There were no two alike in the whole pile. As soon as the tray hit the table, the students scrambled. Sterling reached out and grabbed the most beautiful cup, a tall, sparkling crystal one that caught the light. "This one is mine," he declared, feeling proud that he had the most expensive-looking cup at the table. He held it high, admiring how it glittered in the sun. Ponder quickly snatched the polished silver cup, but he kept glancing over at Sterling's crystal one. "I wish I'd been faster," Ponder whispered to himself. He felt like his silver cup wasn't quite as good as the crystal one. He spent so much time comparing his cup to Sterling's that he didn't even notice the delicious smell filling the room. Finally, only the plainest cups were left. Micah reached out and took a simple, brown plastic cup that had a small chip on the rim. Barnaby smiled at her and began to pour. A thick, dark swirl of clay coffee filled her cup, and a tiny puff of white cotton wool steam rose into the air. Micah took a deep breath of the rich, chocolatey aroma. Barnaby then poured coffee into Sterling's fancy crystal cup. "Notice something?" Barnaby asked. "All of you wanted the best cups, and you felt bad if you got a plain one, but the cup doesn't change the coffee. The crystal doesn't make it sweeter, and the plastic doesn't make it bitter. The cup is just a container." The students went quiet. Barnaby continued, "Life is the coffee. Your jobs, your money, and your things are just the cups. They are tools to hold your life, but they are not life itself. If you spend all your time worrying about the cup, you forget to enjoy the coffee." He gestured toward the windows and the warmth of the room. Sterling, Ponder, and Micah finally took their first sips. They realized the coffee was the best they had ever tasted. They stopped looking at each other's cups and started talking about their favorite memories together. They learned that a happy life isn't about having the fanciest things. It's about savoring the brew and the friends you share it with.